I say now that I work in service of the mushroom because every client I work with might think they know what it is they're seeking to find, but the mushroom seems to always know what needs to come to the surface to be looked at, to be processed, to be healed. And what happens on plant medicine and with psychedelic medicine is you get to experience that material. You're not just talking about it in your little cognitive prefrontal cortex, you're actually having an experience of that material, which is where you get to reprocess it and then store it differently. And it's how we change our paths in our brain around past experiences, traumas.
Hi, and welcome to the Awakening series. My name is Kimberly Archuleta. We are so excited to have a wonderful guest. Her name is Heather Lee. She is the founder of Medicine Woman Retreats and one of the nation's first certified psychedelic assisted psychotherapists. Welcome, Heather. Thank you so much for your time today.
I am so excited to be here, Kimberly. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I am so excited about this topic. This is something that I have been wanting to do for some time. And until I met you, I didn't know I was going to do it. I'm like, when am I ever going to do this? I believe that it's synchronicity. And when we met, I was so inspired by you that I was like, not only am I going to work with you in regards to psychedelics, I would love for you and be honored if you joined the show. So again, thank you so much for your time. And I'd love to, have everybody get an insight of like your journey and how you became who you are today.
Yeah. Well, it's a long and winding road often to get to where you're supposed to be, right? So I have been a therapist for over 25 years. I've been a mental health professional, and a lot of my focus has been on women and women's life journeys and the landscape of women's lives. And I've also always been really fascinated by non-ordinary states of consciousness. So in my own journey, I have studied dream work, I've studied mindfulness and done a lot of work with guided meditation and near-death experiences, worked with hospice. So a lot of interest in those levels of consciousness, not ordinary states. And when the opportunity came up to become certified, one of the nation's first psychedelic assisted psychotherapists, I thought that so speaks to me to be working with, this is really this is psycho-spiritual work. There's a reason they're called magic mushrooms. There's no way that we can really explain some of the places that we go and the insights and the inner wisdom we access. So that's a little bit about how I got where I am right now.
I love that. I've never heard of that term before, and I absolutely love it. We need to put that on a shirt, one, maybe a hat. But the fact that you are like a pioneer in this field, I think that's what made me feel so comfortable with you. And just hearing your journey is amazing. I'd love to hear more about, like, for example, what and how does this work? Like with the body's chemistry, how, like, the amount we take,
Yeah.
does it change? Like, what is the process of even looking into this? Or what are your thoughts of a novice going in and being like,
Yeah.
where do I start? Should I look on YouTube? Like,
Right.
what do I
Right.
do?
Right. Well, and that is my demographic is women that are curious about exploring this medicine, but want a safe and soulful introduction to the medicine. So I work with a lot of people who maybe did something back in college, but nobody who has done it in this way, where we go behind eye shades and with music and do this whole exploration of your inner landscape and your inner wisdom. So how it looks, let me just sort of set up, how it works, to work with me. I do individual sessions and I do beautiful little boutique women's retreats where we gather as a small group of women and do this medicine together. And I have to say that I love, as a woman, reclaiming plant medicine and working with this medicine as a woman and with women feels so like sacred and right. And I have had a couple of people say, well, but you're not of some, you don't have the ancestral lineage to, some tribe. You know what? I do. My Scottish ancestors probably dabbled in Scottish witchcraft, which is plant medicine. So I will just
Absolutely.
stake my claim there for witch heritage. But so how it looks is really, you drink, when I work with people, we drink mushroom tea. So you're drinking your psilocybin as a tea. And what it does is it takes you on this journey of your inner landscape. So you lie down and with the eye shades and the music that's curated by neuroscientists that guides you on the journey. And so we're really exploring and accessing our own inner healing intelligence, which is so, I say now that I work in service of the mushroom, because every client I work with might think they know what it is they're seeking to find, but the mushroom seems to always know what needs to come to the surface to be looked at, to be processed, to be healed. And what happens on plant medicine and with psychedelic medicine is you get to experience that material. You're not just talking about it in your little cognitive prefrontal cortex. You actually have an experience of that material, which is where you get to reprocess it and then store it differently. And it's how we change our paths in our brain around past experiences, traumas, whatever, and create new paths and new ways that we hold material and new patterns in our minds. It's really amazing.
I love that. It's basically allowing us as like the ego mind to stop dabbling in the everyday patterns that we continue to think about and exploring something completely different under circumstances that are safe and actually ultimately healthy. I don't even want to compare it to anything, but
Right.
In a health and safe environment, which I truly appreciate and can't wait to do. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts in regards to like, let's talk about a little bit about comparison about drinking, and then
Yeah.
your ego's kind of lifted and you can talk to people and
Yeah.
you can network, compared to like having a little bit of mushrooms, maybe not going on a full journey,
Yeah.
but like what's the difference? I know we lose so many brain cells by drinking. What's the difference
Yeah.
with
Alcohol, which is actually a neurotoxin, right? And
Mhm.
we live in this culture that promotes that. Let me just say, so it's a really interesting topic and one that I love, because we live in this culture that is so promotes and sort of almost pushes alcohol as a social lubricant and makes it so the norm, and it destroys so many lives. Not that I don't enjoy a glass of wine now and then, but the interesting thing is psilocybin, the side effects are that you become more pro-social, you make better health choices, you are more connected to nature. So the side effects of psilocybin are actually almost all incredibly positive. And psilocybin is safer than anything in your bar or medicine cabinet by far.
Oh,
So I work with folks, I do large dose journeys. And there's so much research going on right now that I'm really excited about that shows that people that journey on psilocybin, even one macrodose journey, start to have better decisions around better choices around food, around alcohol. So I'm currently working with several women who just want to change their relationship with alcohol and are using psilocybin to do that, because one of the side effects of psilocybin is you're less drawn towards alcohol. Isn't that fascinating?
sign me up.
It's
I'm
really
always like,
crazy.
I'm off alcohol, I'm off alcohol. And then all of a sudden I go to a fun event and I'm like, okay, one glass of champagne. Okay, another
Yeah,
glass of champagne. And the next day I'm
I
like, oh, this was such a bad idea. What was I thinking?
so then we have, in the realm of psilocybin, we have the macro journey, which can change deeply ingrained patterns of belief and behavior. And so that can be a great way to jumpstart some of these bigger changes in lifestyle. And then microdosing, which is taking a sub-perceptual amount of psilocybin. And I just want to say that again, sub-perceptual, because I get so many people who say, I'm microdosing, but I didn't feel it. And I'm like, well, you're not supposed to. Microdosing, you shouldn't, but you're still getting that neuroplastic boost. And there's a lot of self-report of people feeling like it evens out your moods. It puts you in a more, clear mind state, enhances creativity. And a lot of people are now starting to sort of shift to, let's explore microdosing as what we're doing as our social lubricant, and to kind of make us feel more even in mood versus, sort of falling back to alcohol.
That makes so much sense. It really does, especially if you have an understanding of the dosage for your body. So obviously you have to explore, test it out. But once you have that dosage, I mean, to be able to feel so good, release the ego for a bit, and then go home, be able to drive home just fine, and also wake up without a hangover sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a big fan of microdosing, and there's not as much clinical evidence supporting it yet, but there's a lot of research underway. But anecdotally, everybody is really there for the most part. There are no negative side effects. There's only the upside of trying microdosing. And when I microdose, it's about 1/10 of a gram of psilocybin in the capsules or in a chocolate. So it's as I say, a very small amount, but you still are getting that boost to opening up your brain and having that neuroplastic effect that helps us really boost our brain health.
I love that. I did hear of friends taking different types of mushrooms while like the whole pandemic was going on because it helped promote like health and so on and so forth. And I was like, that's an interesting one. I've never heard that before. Like certain types of mushroom supplements.
Oh, functional mushrooms are amazing. And if any of your, listeners or yourself have not seen Fantastic Fungi, you've got to watch Fantastic Fungi on Netflix, because it really talks about all the different strains of mushrooms, including psilocybin, but functional mushrooms, lion's mane, turkey tail, incredible boosts for brain health, for immune function. The mushrooms are our friends. They're here
They
to
really
help
are. I
us.
mean, they used to be, compared to the trees, we used to have mushroom land, right? Before we
Yeah,
had trees. I mean, this was mushroom land. So
right.
a question for you. I really love this idea. And I love that you do this with patients that are, possibly in hospice or getting to that point. Can you give us a little bit of insight? I mean, for our parents, our grandparents, what can we do to help them and better, like, equip them to go out or exit in
Yeah.
just a relaxed fashion compared to just
Yeah.
enduring the pain or whatever it is that they're dealing with.
Right. Well, I think, it speaks to the fact that psilocybin assisted psychotherapy really can run the gamut from, somebody such as yourself doing it to just explore your inner landscape, just so there's personal growth and development, exploration of consciousness. And then in my training, I trained with some of the lead researchers at Johns Hopkins, and we were looking at psilocybin for end-of-life anxiety and distress. And I also worked with women who have cancer using psilocybin for that existential anxiety and distress. And, I am really hoping that this becomes part of our new paradigm when we look at end of life, because what the research shows and what people are experiencing is that doing one macro journey, and we're talking about, maybe 5 grams of mushrooms in a supported environment, people have such a deep connection to this sense of interconnectedness of all things. And it provides this the loss of ego, the sense of being one with everything, a connection really experientially to your eternalness. And it really is relieving people from that tight existential angst that comes with fear of end of life. So it's hard to put words on what that experience is for people, but across the board in all the studies at Johns Hopkins, end of life clients, we're having profound shifts in feeling so much more ready to accept coming to end of life. And the women I'm working with cancer as well, just feel like there's this relief and this sense of a sense of peace in the midst of that journey.
That's so beautiful. Like, what other non-pharmaceutical, pill out there can say that,
Yeah,
all natural?
right. And, so it's confusing in a way that we live in a culture that is so afraid of this plant medicine that provides so much healing and emotional comfort and, sort of enhances our brain capacity. It makes you kind of wonder, why so afraid, people? What are we afraid of here? This is ancient healing plant medicine that really just has so many benefits and so few disadvantages. No toxicity level, no capacity for addiction. It just really is a very, very safe, powerful healing medicine.
I love that. So you are based in Denver. What if there are people, say, for example, I have some audience members in Europe. What would you suggest that they do to possibly start their journey, their plant
Yeah.
medicine journey with psilocybin?
Yeah, so I'm so glad you said that. I don't know if you were aware that I have three beautiful retreats I'm going to be running in Spain starting in March of 2024. So I plan on spending half of my year in Spain and Portugal and half of my year here. So I'll be running retreats over there as well. But, I often encourage people just to look, almost every community has a psychedelic society or community. In the advance of moving to Spain, I joined the Barcelona Psychedelic Society. So that is a great way for people to kind of find out what's going on in their community, to just do a little Google and look. But there really is a movement growing with this whole renaissance. And there are a lot of people in academia, in medicine, in therapy that are really finding ways to work together and support people in exploring these medicines.
It's beautiful. And I love the fact that you're going to Spain, one of my favorite places. I've been there twice this year, actually. So I would love to maybe possibly join your retreat next year. And I do have quite a few friends in Spain. So we'll definitely take a look at that. As far as the journey, your journey, say, for example, your daily activity with the psilocybin, do you go
Yeah,
on macro journeys still? Or like, what are your personal,
I do.
what's your personal journey?
For myself, I feel like probably 3, 4 times a year, a sort of a quarterly tune-up. And about just a little over a year ago, I got diagnosed with breast cancer and did not see that coming. I don't think anyone ever sees that one coming, right? And the first thing I did was a huge macro journey to ask myself, to sort of explore what was going on a psycho-spiritual, energetic level. And I got an incredible download of information about how this was ancestral fear turned cellular, and that I had these fear-based patterns of thinking around money and men and partnership. Does that sound familiar to some of you ladies out there?
Yes.
So the mushrooms really helped me on shifting and releasing those patterns. And I now am living in this different space. I mean, the work with that medicine has completely shifted deeply ingrained and rooted patterns of negative thought, beliefs. And I'm now living in a whole different space, had a double mastectomy, dealt with the whole cancer piece. But I will have to say that the piece that modern medicine couldn't help me with was that psycho-spiritual energetic piece, which is now part of why I'm working with women with cancer to do journey work when you get a diagnosis, because there's a whole other level of what's going on around this dis-ease. So again, so many applications for exploring the psycho-spiritual realm as it relates to so many things in our lives.
Heather, you are truly an earth angel. This is so beautiful. And to have enough courage to speak about this, because it was a little bit taboo a few years ago. And then prior to that, I mean, we just didn't say it. We just did it, right? Like you said, college. But it wasn't under circumstances where we are safe and in a, like, making sure we have the intention, all those things are so important with this process when we go on this journey. So as far as books, what type of books can people read on this to kind of maybe just feel a little better before they start this journey?
Well, of course, Michael Pollan's How to Change Your Mind is really up there. Let's see, what is that other one that I love? Consciousness Medicine is another. But I really do think that, some of the documentaries out there, one's called Dosed, and Fantastic Fungi and How to Change Your Mind are really provide people a good sort of basic entry level understanding of some of these medicines.
That's so helpful and so perfect. I'll definitely dive into a few of those before our journey. Um, is there anything you can possibly, give us as far as insight about how often we should do it? I love the fact that you do this quarterly, and I do have a very good friend who suggests quarterly, once you get started quarterly, to kind of, like, it's almost like he said it was like a foundation type thing.
Yeah.
He reignites his foundation, or
Yeah.
he gets back into who he really is, or interconnection of who he really is, and that's his true foundation. So he
Yeah.
likes to do that quarterly. What should so say we start doing it, what should we do next? Would you suggest incorporating that into our yearly adventure for a self-care?
Absolutely. I think doing a retreat once a year, whether that is your own personal retreat that you develop for yourself, or you come on, somebody's retreat, such as one of mine. But I think stepping out of our really busy lives that are so ingrained with busy doing, we're always doing and so I think it's really important to once a year take a weekend at least where you step off and create this space for yourself that is sacred, quiet space to do this exploration of your soul, of your spirit, of your inner landscape. And this medicine is perfect for that. And you had sort of mentioned, as much as I do it quarterly, I think you also, it just has to feel like you're drawn to it and the time is right. It's nothing that you can kind of put on a calendar. You have to kind of wait and see if that feels like the right time, if things are aligned for that to be right for you. And, just like you and I came into each other's orbits, when I run retreats, every person will say, it was kind of weird how your name came across my plate, or I felt like I just stumbled on it and it was exactly at the right time. So I think there's almost a level of divination about how we land at journeying. And it seems to come to people at the right time, in the right place. There are probably several people listening right now who are like, that's kind of crazy that I'm listening. She seems like the right person for me to journey with. I mean, ever since I started working in the mushroom space, I feel like it's the mycelium of the people. There's definitely something to that. So quarterly, but as you feel drawn.
Love that. I love that. It's a calling, and
Yeah.
yes, it's a calling. I believe I tried it one time at the beach, just a little personal experience, and I felt it in waves. Like I felt this interesting wave, and then it was gone, and I was like, "Oh, I think that's it." Nope, here it comes again.
Yeah.
And then for one split second, I kind of got a little like nervous.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why. I did. I thought of something strange, possibly. And then a good friend of mine was there to like pat me on the back and say, you're okay.
Yeah.
But because we did it with chocolate, and I don't like chocolate whatsoever, I didn't take much. So it was over pretty quickly, like the little journey I went on. And since then I haven't tried it, but it was beautiful because I was able to see the sunset and just like, whoa, whoa. And again, like
Yeah.
I said, I got a little scared, and he was like, you're okay, you're okay. And so
Well, and I like,
that was really cool.
and that low dose, like about a gram, or in between a half gram and a gram, is a lovely dose for going out in nature, to just really be out and take nature in. But again, where bad trips come from, and the good, that expression is really when you're taking a dose that's kind of high and you're trying to navigate external circumstances, trying to navigate other people, situations, that can sort of antagonize our ego, create anxiety. So, either you're in the microdose or the very low dose threshold, or you should be in kind of the macrodose threshold with a guide and the shades and supported. I'll just say that I think anything like 2-3 grams, I call the danger zone, because you're in an altered state of consciousness, but not far enough to really drop in. And I find that a lot of people can get very anxious on the 2-3 gram dosing. So and again, I have journeyed well over 150, almost 200 people, and I can 2-3 grams can be not so good. You really want to be cautious in that realm if you're trying to navigate the external world.
Absolutely. I love that wording. It's super helpful, as like you said, as far as navigation goes, especially if you're a novice,
Yeah.
user with this plant medicine.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. Well, I'd love to learn more about where people, or I'm sure our audience would love to learn where
Yeah.
we can, find you. I know where to find you, but where can we find you? How do they contact you?
Yeah.
How do they go on this journey with you? If they're a male, can they go on a journey with you? Is it just female?
Good questions. So it's Medicine Woman, singular, Medicine Woman Retreats is my website. And I lead, beautiful, small, safe, soulful women's retreats here in Colorado and in Spain. But we do also have a men's retreat with Medicine Man Retreats coming up in Breckenridge. Actually, it's not this weekend, but next weekend. So, but those are often on my website. I sort of keep track of those as well. So again, leading the privates and the small women's retreats. And I think, it's important for people to know that in Colorado, it is legal to have and consume your own personal quantity of psilocybin. So we provide a safe environment for people to do that. And, I really am, excited to live in Colorado where people have access to this medicine for their own personal use and can do that in a safe and supported manner.
Yes, absolutely. Colorado has been doing really well in the plant medicine space, thankfully.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wonderful. If you don't mind, can you give our audience or the audience a little bit of insight on, maybe something that they can take home with, or, if they do find mushrooms or a mushroom person, be cautious, or I mean, there's so many tips maybe that you can
Yeah.
possibly provide.
Yeah. I mean, I think we covered some around, you want to be cautious if you're doing anything over. I mean, you want to be cautious doing this alone. It's always good to do this with a buddy system. And if you're going to do a macro dose, you really should work with somebody who is a skilled guide who can provide support for you. Because when we journey to that inner landscape, sometimes you don't know what might come up, and it can be challenging material. And you want somebody who is really able to help you, create some space around that and help you understand and integrate what comes up. That's really an important piece of this. And I think, always be mindful of where you're sourcing your medicine. Usually there's not much of an issue with psilocybin, but you want to be really careful. And I think, often when people are doing this on their own, they don't even know how much they're taking. So I would encourage people to get a little savvier about that, or work with people who are savvy about that, because just eating a handful of dried mushrooms is not always a good idea, people. So just to really educate yourself and be a little bit more savvy about that. And there's a lot of support out there around microdosing. You can really go online, and there are quite a few resources for people to get the education and information. And I'm always happy to be a resource for people as well.
Wonderful. So, knowing all that you know now with plant medicine, it's a very interesting question, and it might catch you off guard. But what would you tell your younger self who had never tried this plant medicine? What type of advice would you give this wonderful younger you?
Well, when I think, I think just a quick backstory is that, our government did a really good job scaring us all straight, right? Like telling us that these were really dangerous drugs that were going to screw up your brain. And so there's an unprogramming to recognize that these are really healing plant medicines. So I think I would probably tell my younger self to trust my intuition more and be less listening to some of the noise that was out there, because I think my intuition even knew back then in 1981, the first time I did mushrooms in college, that this was really pretty sacred and spiritual medicine, and that I was exploring something in the realm of spirituality. And that is really an amazing space to explore. And we live in a culture that we need more connection to that, to recognizing the divine and the interconnectedness of all things. So I think I just would tell my younger self, it's been a journey to really lean into knowing that the best wisdom available to me is my inner wisdom.
That's beautiful. Wow. Very well said. That's wonderful. Well, I am so thankful for all of the knowledge you provided, all of the wisdom. Your time has been so valuable to so many people. This will be an evergreen type of, I was going to say course, but kind of evergreen type of video for all to see on YouTube. So I will put all of Heather's information below. Please contact her if you're ready for that journey. And yes, definitely be safe out there. Enjoy this journey. It's so beautiful. And just know that the plant medicine is there for you to help you heal. Yeah. And any other words you have, Heather, you're welcome to.
No, thank you so much for having me. And, again, I work in service of the mushroom, and it's always my pleasure to help, just kind of help people understand more about the healing power of these wonderful plant medicines. So thank you. It was an honor to be here today and share my passion.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you, Kimberly.